Okay, update on uranium with CCJ Chemical as our proxy as usual. In my last video, we were on day 9 of the daily cycle, I believe. Today we are on day 12. It is May 27th, middle of the trading day. It's roughly 1 p.m. And so you can see very clear we have a daily cycle low here. That's no doubt at this point. I'll add just the 10 period moving average for reference. You can see, I'll take these crosshairs off. You can see the 10 period moving average is curled up. Any line you can draw down here, very clear we have a daily cycle low. And we know that it was a failed daily cycle, because this daily cycle low was below this one. So now the question is this also an ICL, intermediate cycle low, or also weekly cycle low? Same thing. ICL, weekly cycle low, same thing. So we know that we're on day 12, and we know that if the ICL is still ahead of us, we would likely have a left translated daily cycle, which means we would have the high early, and then we would spend most of our time declining. So something like, you know, this cycle here, right? So this cycle was 23 days. The high came at day 10. The low came day 23. So that means we rose for 10 days and we fell for about 13, right? And so you're like, CCJ cycles can be a little bit all over the place. I mean, especially this close to a potential ICL. And so, which is to say, it can be really short because we've gotten some catalyst and there's a turnaround, or you can have sort of a more extended decline, unfortunately. But because this daily cycle was relatively long compared to, let's say, the previous three or four, this was 40 days versus 32, 27, 35, 25. We could assume this might be a shorter one, so closer to the 25-day range. So we're already almost halfway through, which is a good and bad, right? It means we could get our high relatively soon, but it also means it doesn't have to necessarily be bearish. I think we'd really want to get our high. If we could get to 2760 before making our high for the daily cycle, that gives us a really good chance of retesting this high here, because that would be the first daily cycle coming out of a potential ICL. And so if we could get to, above this level, by the first daily cycle, then it gives us pretty good odds that by the second daily cycle, we can take out this high here. And so if we look at the weekly chart, it'll give us a better sort of sense. Very clear swing low from 2 weeks ago. So this is following silver very closely. Silver has a potential week 15 ICL. So this was a swing low last week once we went above 2316. And then we had some nice bullish follow through this week, very clear. We make another weekly high once we're above 2398. And so there's that 2760 level represented on the weekly. And you can see this is kind of the equivalent 4300 level for the S&P. Same thing for the futures. This week was just a pretty nasty bearish outside week across most assets, definitely across all the indices. And so most of the individual stocks did the same thing. And so there's probably a lot of interested sellers up here, right? Like people who maybe chased the breakout, right? They bought up here thinking we were making a higher high above here, and then weren't able to get out as it failed, and they're frustrated. Once they get back up here, you could see, a huge party of interested sellers, like in that regard, for instance. But this looks pretty bullish. The alternative, of course, you always have to think about the alternative, the bear case, is that this is actually only week 17, right? So this was week 15, 16, 17. And then let's say next week, especially if we get a reversal in the S&P as well, that's going to definitely drag uranium down. And so you can imagine we make some kind of lower high. So, we came off this bottom, maybe we get all the way up here, maybe even poke above, and then, something like that. And then we head lower, right? And so that's what you want to be on guard for next week. But right now, it looks pretty bullish. Let's look at the monthly, especially knowing May is about to close out. And so this is a monthly candle that's trying to go from red to green. It opened at 25.32, and we're at 25.06 right now. And so Very likely we get a green monthly candle to close May, which is hugely bullish. Even if we don't, this is next month is probably going to open as an inside month, most likely. But we're closer to we're closer to the higher end of the range than the lower end. So that is really that's really promising, and it means we just need to get above 2761, right? So that's why the multi-time frame analysis is so important. That's the same level from that weekly candle, right? This level here from this weekly candle, that's your monthly high for May. And so once we get above there, we actually have a monthly swing low. This becomes a monthly swing low. And then that could be that could be the beginning of your rebound. Again, given that I think the broader market, may be setting up for a reversal next week, I don't know that this is going to be able to survive that. Now, just looking across all of uranium, or a handful of uranium assets, the one that stands out to me as the laggard is GoviX. So everything has made a new weekly high. That's Cameco, which we just looked at, Denison, DNN, Uranium Energy Corp, UEC, NextGen, Paladin Energy, Fission Uranium. Although Fission Uranium is looking a little weak too, but that's a bullish outside week, not bad. So GoviX is trying to make a bullish outside week. It would need to get above. It would need to get above roughly 26 cents. I mean, we'll see. So this is the one I'd stay away from. Like, of all the things in uranium that are doing well, GoviX seems to be the laggard. And if we look at the monthly, nothing has managed to go green yet, but they're all very close, the same way that Cameco was. So looking interesting for uranium, but it's going to go the way of the broader market, unfortunately.